All right, ladies and gentlemen, it is your favorite dark sorcerer here, and jealous son of Abaddon. Um, and today I want to discuss herbs, specifically herbalism, and how it relates to sorcery, or I should say, sorceries. Okay. A lot of practitioners worldwide utilize herbs and plants, trees, even shrubs like Oriolander or, say, white snake, the milk tree, or, say, for an example, plants like hemlock, hellebore, powders such as, gopher dust and, sulfur powder. There's a lot of things that go along with sorcery that can be employed within your particular brand of sorcery. A lot of people or groups, I should say, believe in a certain way, the way they were trained in their brand of sorcery. If you were part of, say, for an example, a coven of white witches, say Wiccan, pagan, or Wicca, those who celebrate in a very public manner dealing with children, then you may want to ignore the herbalism aspects because mixing herbs and plants together with sorcery is a delicate basis and can do some harm, okay, especially for the little tykes. Now, I've gone to Wiccans and pagans ceremonies. I've seen how they utilize, well, let's just call it candles, some shrubs, like, say, pine, pine needles, branches with pine needles. I've seen how they weave their and wave around their little sticks of incense. Okay, the Temple of the Feminine Divine is one of these type of groups that I've associated with in the past, and surprise, surprise, sexist. They don't allow any man or to rise above any rank because they view a male as inferior, much like they used to do in the old days of men associating women as being inferior, second class citizens. This is Italian, by the way, proto Italian civilization that goes back long before the Roman Empire. Okay. But when we get into herbs and plants, it's not about sex, it's not about who's superior or who's inferior. It is about the magical operation that is invoked through your ceremonies, your rituals, depending if you are in a coven setting or a solitary practitioner setting. Okay, let's kind of just break this stuff down for just a moment. Okay, if we go into, let's go with Santa Morte. Okay, there's a few books out there on Santa Morte. There's the Grimoire of Santa Morte, Volume 1 and 2. Highly recommend that one. Very informative. Then there's La Santa Morte by Flowers. Okay. Now, that one there I found to be lacking in a lot of things. They only touch basis on the light aspects. What do I mean by light aspects? What I mean is aspects involving love rituals, healing, okay? Things that the church supposedly is capable of doing. Okay. That, like, say, for an example, oh, I don't know, angelic beings who are supposed to be healers, protectors, guardians, and warriors. But yet, if you look up the very definition of angel, it means warrior. Okay. Kind of like demon means protector. Okay. But here's the thing. Every region of the world has their own formulas. If we take Haitian voodoo, let's look at the zombie powder. It's a mixture of, I guess you can call it the toxins from various different pufferfish, the gases of toads, and the venoms of tree frogs, okay, found in the Amazon or rainforest. These things mixed with the unique powders in combinations of herbs and plants by the solitary practitioner, because every single practitioner that uses the zombie powder, outside of the three most common things, pufferfish, toads, and frogs, has their own unique blend. Okay? No two blends are the same, especially in Haitian voodoo. Okay? But this isn't just in Haitian voodoo. It's also in New Orleans, Creole voodoo, okay? It goes all the way back into the Congo regions of Africa, Ethiopia, Malawi, okay? These are practices that go back hundreds of years. It's nothing new. But then let's say, for an example, we get into, like I said, Santa Morte, and now you're seeing where plants are brought in. And this is a splinter cell off voodoo, the African Caribbean traditions, where you have things like, say, let's take it from the very words themselves, okay? Plants, amber, healing to break bad habits and addictions. Black, strength, power, total protection against enemies, yada, 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 okay? But that's just one little thing. You have things like roses. Roses symbolize Mary and similar to the goddess who have divine power over life. Okay? You have, say for an example, bones. Bones are used, specifically that of casting of bones is associated with divination. Specifically that similar to runes or cartomancy. But crushed bone powder has been used in occultism for barriers, protection, and consecrations of temples. Okay. You look at every temple or every religion that has popped up over the years or centuries. You have the old pagan groups, the Druids, you have the necromancers who associate with graveyards, a lot of plant life, there's a lot of trees, shrubs, there's a lot of things in abandoned churches, okay, where they are consecrated not only with herbs, plants, and stuff, but also through bones. Okay, the church has built their lives off the bones and blood of their enemies. This is nothing new. Again, we're getting into blood sorcery. We're getting into bloodletting and necromantic and vampiric practices. Okay. Now you'll notice in this book alone, okay, this is the Grimoire of Santa Morte, Spells and Rituals of Most Holy Death, the Unofficial Saint of Mexico by Sofia de Gregorio. Okay. Now, what's interesting to note about that book is much like that of Santeria. Okay, and I've discussed this in the past with a few select individuals that I've come in contact with that have been initiated in there or are interested in getting into Santeria, is their ritual baths. Okay, their ritual baths include things like plants, smelly herbs, flowers, even. Okay, the water is blessed and consecrated and poured over the individual. being initiated into that circuit of sorcery, that religious-based philosophy. Okay, so you're using things like parsley, basil, amber, rosemary, thyme. Okay, but what about things of death? What are some of the powders and some of the herbs that are used for things like destruction rituals? Well, let's take a look at this for a moment. You have things that are associated with necromantic rites and rituals such as things like hemlock or wolfsbane. Okay, things like well, let's just say things that would get you into a state of relaxation, perhaps bring up a state of illusion, even. Okay, like say mushrooms, dried mushrooms can be burnt. They can be utilized and crushed into a powder mixture. You can bring in hellebore, hemlock, dry it out, crush it up, black pepper, or perhaps even paprika. Okay? Just a little bit ago, I've been lounging all day because I've been around a lot of people this week, okay, through my job. A lot of people, and I just needed to de stress. So I lounged around all day. I slept the morning away after my physical therapy. And, I sat there and I was watching Arrow season 7. Just picked it up yesterday. So why not just lounge and watch it? So tonight I was feeling the need. Why not? Why not do a cleansing bath? Just try to rid yourself of that negative energy, that current. Kind of refresh yourself. So drew a hot bath, a really hot bath. Okay, I'm talking to the point where your skin turns red. Okay, I'm talking first-degree burn type water. Okay, those of you who are not used to that level of intense heat, don't try it. Okay, work your way up to it. You'll adapt to it, but over time. Okay, it doesn't have to be scalding red hot water that you just step into and scream your head off as you're trying to sit down in it. Inch by inch is better. Okay, but I would go with probably just enough to turn your skin red. That's about it. Your average hot shower. Mixed it in with sea salt. Sea salt is something that is pure, but it can also be utilized in hexcraft, cursing. Okay, but let's say also look at paprika. Paprika is associated with jinxes. It's associated with death, destruction, curses, but it's also used much in the same fashion as, say, a chicken's foot. Chicken's foot grounds your enemy's feet to the ground. Okay? Obviously, I'm not the only one who's talked about that stuff from a voodoo or hoodooism practice, black magician or sorcerer's perception. But here it is. Paprika is a destructive agent. It can be used to eliminate a toxic feeling. It can be used symbolically to wash away that negativity. I can tell you I've been extremely angry all week. I find people to be like insects. They just keep coming and coming as needy little children. Okay? And this is why. You look at what's going on in the world right now with this Corvus 19 thing, this flu that's been sweeping the world. The state is supposed to be in a state of lockdown, okay? But then they'll sit there and say, well, only primary corporations are allowed to, mandatory type of businesses are allowed to operate, like the medical community or that of fast food restaurants, if you're lucky, okay? Fire department, ambulance, say for an example, hospitals or um, police department. Okay, things like that nature. Okay, these are primary because they're meant to enforce these mandates and these restrictions. Okay, and a complete lockdown means you're not supposed to go anywhere unless you work for a primary corporation, which I do. Okay, so in a run of a day, I can tell you that I'm serving anywhere between 400 to 800 people just through drive through, just through drive through. Okay, that's 800 vehicles in a run of a day going through drive through my business, okay, to where I work. That's about 400 people, over 400 people just in the afternoon shift alone. You have another 400 people in the morning, okay? So, of course, when you're serving in fast food, you're going to get angry. You're going to get frustrated. You're going to get worked up, you know, because it's the affliction of emotion. It's that tension, that hysteria where it's like, why don't you people go the fuck away? Stay home, you know, stay off the street. But no, you got to come to this one business. Do you know how many businesses around the city? Why this one? You know what I'm saying? But it gets to you. So a bath is needed, a cleansing solution, sea salt, the purest stuff on earth. Okay, washes up in caves. Awesome to collect. You can even make it if you have the alchemical know-how. Paprika, ridding yourself, killing off that negativity, and you're visualizing it as you're soaking and submerging yourself. And then you have ground cinnamon. Ground cinnamon is a great solution for healing. It sucks the poisons and the venoms out of your skin, your pores. It really rejuvenates you, much in the same way as the sea salt. It's like being baptized all over again, if you wish. Best way to describe it. Best way to describe it right there. Kind of like a baptism, self initiated baptism. You know, hitting that proverbial easy button and starting anew. Okay? All ready for the next week, Sunday through Wednesday. All right? With the masks, with the gloves, the little plastic sheet across the window where you have to bend down just to pass drinks out. Yeah, fun. Then I wonder why my knee is hurting so freaking badly. But this isn't the only stuff that is utilized as destructive or cleansing items. Number one, we can go with black pepper. Black pepper or black sand is utilized in hexing and cursing. You have things like celery. Let's go with fruits and vegetables. Things like celery, which create a more intensive sexual desire, I guess you could say. You have that of lemons, which cleans the blood and prevents gallstones and kidney stones. You have things like honey or sugar, which can ward off tooth pain. You have things like, let's go with roses, symbolizing a single rose represents the Christian sun. Yeah, that's right. The Son, Jesus Christi, otherwise known as Jesus Christ, the man in Hebrew, meaning son with us, or son of, I should say. On top of that, roses or rose petals can be used in a love spell, kind of like ginger, ginger stick, shredding of the ginger stick, mixing it in with rose petals, with rosemary, sea salt, your pure intent. Do you have to call on a god for it? No, you don't have to, because it's herbalism. It's a form of alchemy, which is also associated with sorcery. Now, depending on the intent of what powder or concoction that you make, well, then that comes down to the type of ritual that you're doing and who you're calling upon to aid you, or I should say, to deliver that curse or that hex or that love potion or whatever that you're trying to create. Gods, demons, angels, jinn, they all have different perspectives, different gifts that they can bestow upon the practitioner. A lot of the grimoire traditions, well, let's just say they utilize herbs and plants. Look at the grimoire, the Grand Grimoire Red Dragon. How do you make an item like a rod of power? You look at Christianity; they use animal bones, the flesh, the blood upon an altar, the symbolatry, and it said that their God looks down and enjoys that rotting flesh. Hmm, interesting, isn't it? But yet, Azazel, the ancient darkness, according to the book of Enoch, shared with mankind alchemy, taught women how to make powders to paint their faces, which ironically is also associated with masks, the face masks, the painting of the face, such as in voodoo, Haitian voodoo, or even African based voodoo. Love it. Although, if people actually broke down the sequences of how they create those ghost looking masks, they'd be horrified. In some cases, you find elephant dung or some form of crap mixed in with fluids, sometimes bodily fluids, blood, and other herbs to make it into what it is. But hey, you work with what you got, right? Just the way it is. Even in Palo Mayumbi. And it's funny because I was looking at this, and you have Jamaican fever plant, acacia, chicory, aneto, ground tamarind, avocado, bayberry, snake plant, chili pepper, green pepper, hot pepper, sesame, Indian heliotrope, peapal, basil, tulasi, meaning holy basil. Okay, you have camphor, carob, women's tongue. I have no idea if that's an actual tongue from a woman or an actual plant. Who knows? I haven't come across that one yet. Kelp, cotton, okay, almond tree, marshmallow, balmony, garlic scented petiveria, anise. Now, anise is a very unique herb. You can find it in a grocery store. Most of these you can actually find right in your local grocery, the herb aisle. And what's interesting is I've actually utilized anise. It looks like a star. Okay, comes in a bottle about like that. Okay, It's about like that, and it's filled up with these little star-looking plants that are a little hard. And it's funny because of the fact that this type of thing can be used in just about everything from divination to money, monetary gains, and personal gains from jobs to even destruction rituals, which is hilarious just to see how these things play in. But the uses for just a niece alone is amazing. It goes with just about every type of spell out there. Akalone, how you doing, my friend? And Nikki and Morrison's Pagan Circle. What's up? So, anyways, as I was saying, nettle custard apple, cedar 01, onions, Mexican poppy, coconut, autograph tree. See, that one there is also a new one for me. I've never come across it. Wandering Jew, coriander. Okay. And what's interesting is there's a lot of them in this, you know? And it doesn't matter which type of religion you go into, okay? You can even go into, say, the Cabal. They utilize their own set of herbs and plants. It doesn't matter the religion. It doesn't matter the region of the world. Herbs, plants, trees, fruits, they all play into sorcery in one form or another. You just got to understand what they go for. For an example, a couple good books that I recommend personally, if you want to get to know and identify plants, would be Scott Cunningham. Okay. He's a man that died back in, I believe it was 1997. He was an herbalist. The Encyclopedia of Herbs and Herbalism. Okay. The Magical Herbalism. Wicca in the Kitchen. These are just a couple of books by him that I would recommend. Wicca in the Kitchen, if you really want to be like a kitchen witch, or say for an example, a hedge witch or whatever, and you like being in the kitchen and you like brewing things up on the stove, from say candles or let's say for an example a stew. You just throwing stuff together. You like to cook. Wicca in the Kitchen is something that I would recommend, and this is why. Scott Cunningham literally discusses every type of fruit out there, from vegetables to actual fruits, and what they can do. Now, I found this interesting is because when I was studying to become a minister, an ordained minister, I found it very interesting because of the fact that certain ministers are actually teaching herbalism to help you remain healthy. Okay. Certain things like an acid based material like apple juice, or say, for an example, something with ginseng, or some form of acid based fruit like apples or oranges can help prevent gout. You have, like I said, lemons, lemon juice, but there's more. Wait until you get into things like berries, and how these things that we take for granted daily. We just go into the grocery store. Oh, I like this. Let's just grab it and buy it and then we'll eat it. No clue of what it can do for your body. I have two drawers in my altar room, two drawers full of herbs, plants. Now, if you don't want to go into the herb aisle, go into the vegetable section. Go over to one of the freezer sections there in the where the fruits and vegetables are. You can find a bag of fresh things like, let's say, basil or parsley. These little leaves looking things. Amazing, fresh, deli material. It's like utilizing fish, certain aspects of the fish, like, say, let's go with the egg section. The egg sac can create life, death, begin anew, a journey. You can get into things like garlic powder, mushrooms, parsley, a little Italian seasoning. There's so much that you can get into. And then you have Paul Huzon, who also wrote a book on herbalism and how it can also be used in divining purposes, divination, again, sorcery. You have S. Connolly, a woman that I've talked to from time to time. She's got a lot of knowledge in demonolatry, but she's also studied necromancy. Fascinating. She's got a book called Curses and Hexes. Up until that book, I never really thought of the Bible as a tool for a black magician, a dark sorcerer. Things like the book of Psalms can be used to curse people, or, say, for an example, to make somebody feel better. I always thought of it as a mixed mumbo jumbo. But here's the kicker: when you get into things like the book of the law, Leviticus, and you start tearing down the methods of the burnt offerings, the sacrifices, and how they're known as the sin offerings today. You go into the book of Revelations and you have the seven trumpets, the seven bowls. Seven bowls are full of herbs and plants, oleums, things from the earth that apply within alchemy. Amazing aspects. The way they're separated from the blemished or to the pure. How they, even in African voodoo, how they utilize animal sacrificing and utilize every aspect from fingernails clippings to that of, say, for example, hair, utilizing animal blood, things that are found in the wild and of the earth, things that you take for granted, things that you can walk right through a field and not realize that right in the ditch alone, you have things that you can use in sorcery. Go to the beach, you have seaweed, clams, you have, say, for an example, crabs. Crabs. You have pieces of plants, things that go into the ocean, but can also be on land that you can gather for your sorcery. Look up seaweed and just see what that does for you in your body. But also look at what it can do in sorcery. Some of the best practices out there are not done with gods. And that's the one thing I truly believe since I've started working with the Mazajira Cabal system. over a year ago, almost a year and a half ago, when I first started reading and studying the Cabal system, is that you don't need a god to do things for you. You don't. There are things in sorcery that we do on a day-to-day basis. You look at the annotation process with herbs and plants. You look at the tools that are used in these sorceries. You look at what's around you. Hell, even in Satanism, the Black Mass, for an example, you're utilizing herbs in herbalism. You go into Santeria, Pelomayambi, Quimbanda. You even go into witchcraft, paganism, Wicca. You look at how their altars are set up. Always the same throughout all the splinter cells. But the kicker is they use herbs, they use alchemy, they use plants and trees to build their altars, to weave their sorcery. More so, more so, they use incense, candles, candles which are made with herbs, oleums, things like names and intention, depending on the color of the candle, is utilized. You can have a candle smell like, oh, I don't know, let's say amber. You can have it smell like roses. You can have it smell like, oh, I don't know, let's go with lavender. Again, you're taking this stuff for granted, buying them in a store. Why do you want to support a system when you can learn how to make them yourself? How to go out into the wilderness and get the items and find greater joy, better satisfaction by making them yourself. I have a sister who lives down in Connecticut. She likes to learn on her own. She started utilizing and making candles a few years back, and she really loved it. When I was out in Tucson, met a woman. No, not Tucson. It was Texas. Texas. I met a woman who made her own candles, and she sent me some. I went all the way down to Paris, Texas, to pick these things up, and they were worth every cent. I still have some of them today in a drawer in my inner sanctum. I like the smell of them when you light them. Amazing. You have scented or unscented candles. Hell, you go to Hobby Lobbies and you're going to see the same thing. You go to say for an example Walmart and you go into the candle aisle, you see charcoal, you see incense, you see these little cubes that you can put in a state of in one of those wax machines. You know, where you light a tea leaf candle and it melts it and sets off this aroma without the smell, the smell of a candle wick or the smoke from a stick. Either way, herbs, alchemy, and sorcery go hand in hand. It does not matter what region, it doesn't matter what sex you are, it doesn't matter, period. What comes down to it is what you and your specific working is about. What do you enjoy? What path or root working are you doing? Are you Wiccan? Are you pagan? Are you a practitioner of Brujeria? Are you a voodoo or hoodooism practitioner? Are you doing your sorcery for personal gain, such as a black magician, sorcerer? Or you just sitting there utilizing this stuff as a store, a way to support you and your practice? I find it interesting that both white light practitioners and dark light practitioners do the exact same thing, and yet people assume that they are different, separated. You see, that's the illusion. They're the exact same properties. You work with beings, you sell your services, and yes, you utilize the same supplies. That's the kicker. And I can tell you, putting all this stuff into an actual ritual is amazing. The energy of the currents coming together as you're grinding them up to either make red brick powder or gopher powder, sulfur powder, depending on what you're doing. It comes down to this: it's satisfaction of doing it yourself, learning about each property and its characteristics of what it can do and how it can be manifested through actual sorcery. Do it for you, not for me, not for some, Joe out there telling you what to think or what to believe. It's not about showboating. It's not about subscriptions. It's not about right or wrong, because there really is no right or wrong way to do sorcery. It's your sorcery. Your magic is yours alone, and how you are performing it. Don't worry about what other people think. It's got nothing to do with them unless they're your client. That's a whole nother ball game and a whole nother story. But with that said, have a good night. And until the next video, see you next time. I want to thank Nikki and Morrison's Pagan Circle and Echelon for participating. Thanks for showing up. It's an honor having you here. All right. Have a good day. And until next time.